Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time tuning in, I ask you to do three things: to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll also ask you to hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. The more you interact with the YouTube video, the more YouTube will promote the video, and this will help us get the gospel of Jesus Christ worldwide. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to week 3 of Work Your Singleness Wednesdays with my sister, Gelitza. Say what's up to the people, Gelitza.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this week. We're already halfway there, so I hope that this has been helpful up to this point.
So, Gelitza, last week was powerful, was helpful, was insightful to showing people why they need to heal. So for those who don't know, we did not start the series to get into a relationship. Our goal was to ensure that you became the best version of yourself. We declared in week 1 that this summer was not going to be a hot girl or a hot guy summer. We declared that this summer was going to be a holy guy and holy girl summer. And holy just means to be set apart for God. So during your season of singleness, be set apart for God. So let us get right into today's topic, Gelitza. In week 3 of Work Your Singleness Wednesdays, we're talking about setting your standards. So Romans 12, verse 2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So, Gelitza, the first thing I want to tackle in week 3, titled Setting Your Standards. Who/what do we get our standards from?
So, Ed, before we dive into these questions that you have prepared for us, I don't know about you, but as I was preparing for this particular week, well, every week has been powerful and challenging as I am speaking out just to provide insight to other people so they can learn from us. It's also challenging me because this also holds me accountable to ensure that what I'm speaking on, I'm also living on. And as I was preparing for this particular week, I just felt convicted, and in a good way, convicted in the sense of, okay, am I living to those standards? Where am I truly getting my standards from? And I don't know, I was just like praying about it, having different conversations as I was preparing for this. And one question which I wanted to ask you, which is totally off script, but here we go because this is spirit-led. And this was definitely, I thought about it a lot, especially after our call last week in relations to you need to heal. But my question that I felt convicted on, which I want to also ask you is, are you the single that you want to be? Before we even look at our standards, where they come from, what they are you truly the single that you want to be? And if you are, then great, because then we can go ahead and look at our standards and where they come from. But if you're not, then what's truly stopping you from being that single that you want to be, so then you can then eventually make room to allow someone else in your life? And then I was learning that I'm not, which then ties into those standards, because if I'm seeking God, like my standards come from God, and if I'm seeking those standards, but yet I'm not the single that I want to be, then how can I expect someone else to fulfill these standards if I can't even fulfill those standards because I'm not even at the place that I want to be? So are you in that same situation here? I mean, you can totally be completely ready, and that's okay too, but then that would be even better because then they can definitely get perspective from the both of us.
So I think that's a wonderful question, but I think it's always a process. So like we said last week, that you attract who you are. So I've been working on this process for a while, saying like, okay, I need to get in shape. I need to get mentally sound. I need to do all these things. And then also the standards is like, I can't expect someone to do something that I'm not holding myself to. Because the first person I have to keep accountable is myself. So that's just how I am. So if I say I want someone who's in shape, but I'm not in shape, in my opinion, I don't think I have any right to put that standard on someone else, if that makes sense. So I believe that we're all working and walking towards the standards that we want to see in a future partner.
Yes, I agree. And this was one of the things definitely that convicted me. So I just said, you know what? If I'm not at the place that I want to be, whether it's for whatever reason, because either I want to be financially stable or a certain location, a certain job, certain weight, then it's one of those things where I found, you know what? You need to be in contentment with who you are before you can start thinking about someone else and those standards. And which leads right to your questions, right? Because then once you come to a place where you are where you need to be, or where you feel like, you know what, you are at your best, now you can give your best to someone else, then you start thinking about, you know, where do you get your standards from? And my standards come from God. But growing up, when I wasn't walking in alignment with God, my standards came from my values and my morals that I saw how in the way that I was raised. And a lot of things also perhaps came from society. But I grew up in a female dominating environment. I was raised by my mom, so single mom, independent, and it was much more so like, hey, I'm independent. And to be honest with you, like completely no filter, because I grew up in a household of women who are strong, independent, and who can do it on their own, it's difficult to have the standard of I'm gonna have a partner that I can allow them to lead me without it feeling like I have to be submissive, but in a controlling factor. So I guess it depends on, you know, how you're brought up, how you're shaped, and of course in society as well. But when I look at the standards, and now that I look at my life, fast forward, and how I want God to be at the center, my standards come from God. And some of the things that I focus on when I look towards that is, of course, Matthew 6:33, which is seeking his kingdom, his righteousness, and everything will be added. And in that sense, it's more so looking for God, looking for his wisdom, looking for his guidance and discernment. And I know that the spirit will lead me to the right person, right? So it's more so asking God, is this the right person that I should be dating? But then when I look at the standards and what I think a relationship or a person should have, I look at things like a God-fearing man, someone who has a heart for God, and someone who's going to lay his life for God before he even thinks about me. And then I look at 1 Corinthians 13, which defines what love is, what God's love is. And I honestly think that our relationships, not just relationships like whether you're dating someone, engaged, marriage, but even friendships, even relationships between parents, it's that love is patient, love is kind. You know, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud. You know, it keeps no record of wrongs, it's forgiving, it's unconditional, right? It's truth, it's loyal, it always protects, it always trusts, right? It always hopes, it always perseveres. Love never fails if it's true, if it's truly coming from the heart, from a good place, and it's not self-seeking, right? It's not going to be selfish. Do you want to add on to that right now? I think I said a lot, so I wanted to kind of give you some time.
So you said a lot. So maybe go back to the whole being content. Before, we have to make sure that we don't mix content with complacency.
Right.
So some people say, I'm content in this place, but it's really they're being complacent when God wants to call them deeper. So for example, I'm not, with the example you gave me, I'm not going to use it, but someone who has struggles submitting, some people might get complacent in being independent, but they're saying they're content in being independent. So when it comes to that, we just have to ask the Holy Spirit, teach me how to be submissive. Because even the book of First Peter says, husband and wife submit one itself to each other, submit to each other. So I think true love is submission, and then submission is submission. And then I said that I say this because most people will start saying, I don't want no man to run me. I don't want no man. If it's true love, and you know that there's no secret agenda behind it, you will want to submit to that man.
Absolutely.
So that's what I have to say about that. And what I realized about people's standards will always come from the thing or the person they worship. And there's a
Right.
lot of people that worship culture. There's a lot of people that worship the crowd. There's a lot of people that worship celebrities, and they start to think that my standards should be what they have put out in the world. But as me and you, we worship God, and there's no really compromising the standards God has given us.
Right. Absolutely. I agree to that. And to that point, I also wanted to just add, when you look at like, who idols are and what people idolize in characteristics, I think you really just need to focus on the reason why you're doing it, right? I think a lot of people focus on the person, on the who and what they can bring to the table as opposed to the why. At the end of the day, marriage, even though people may say it was man-made, the covenant itself came from God. The covenant to be a husband and wife and to be able to multiply and create a family and just, protect all that God has already created on this world, that came from God. Everything else, yes, it's man-made, right? But so when we actually focus on the why we're getting married, as opposed to just being so caught up on the fantasy of marriage, which is, either the perfect person or the perfect home or the perfect family because of what they're seeing on social media based on celebrity or whatever the case may be, I think that changes the standards a lot when you focus on the why as opposed to the who. Because I think when you focus on the who, you're focusing on what you can benefit from, right? And you're focusing on, I think, a lot of the outer aspect to a person as opposed to the inner self, which then goes back, is one of your standards, are you going to lay your life down for God and his kingdom and his mission? So I think until someone doesn't really say, you know what, this is what this is about, then we're probably going to continue on this cycle.
And it goes back to week one, chase your purpose. We said chasing your purpose is chasing the heart of God. And until you chase the heart of God, you really don't know what your standards should be.
Right.
Unless you have the Holy Spirit convicting you on this should be your standards, this should not be your standards. And this is an important point for me to say. If your standards is contrary to the word of God, it's not a standard from God.
Right.
So I don't know, people's like, oh, I can just pick and choose. No. If the standards is not conducive to the word of God, it's not a standard from God. Like 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 14 to 16 says, as obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. But just as he has called you is holy, so be holy in all you do, for it is written, be holy because I am holy.
Yes.
So,
Amen to
so
that.
we just have to, our standards have to be holy. And what we keep saying, holy just means it has to be set apart for God. That's all holy means. That means your standards can't be looking like the world. Doesn't mean your standards can be looking like culture. It does not mean that your standards can be looking like, oh, my family did this, my mother did this, my father did this. It doesn't matter. It has to be set apart for God. So to wrap it all up, what we get our standards from is from the word of God.
Yes, absolutely. Which can come from one of the scriptures you mentioned. It can come from 1 Corinthians 13. It can come from Galatians 5. When you take a look at the fruit of the spirits, a person should have those 9 fruits, right? Like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Yeah.
You could look at the book of Ephesians that talks about what a relationship should look like. And I know that and that's Ephesians 5, and that mainly focuses when they're already married. But when you actually look at it, it's definitely you can take stuff away from it even as you're preparing.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait till marriage, obviously, to know this, right? You want to have the blueprint before. So Ephesians 5, especially the section between 21 and 33, is definitely a good one. And it talks about submission, which is good too. So I actually had to read that, and I've been going through that book as well, which has helped me with my example that I gave earlier about submission.
For sure.
I definitely, and I think also, again, when you just keep in mind, just even the basics, right? When we were talking about chasing purpose at the beginning, and what were the basics, right? God's commandment. It's like love God first, love yourself, and love your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So like look at that and just remember that basic and that the basic meaning the foundation, and then build upon that. Then you realize, okay, marriage is not just about you, right? It's about expressing the love that God has, well, the love that we have for God and for others, and just being willing to serve. And I think also when I look at a standard, at least for me, and this I would recommend for both men and women, is I think we should also learn to love men as our brothers, and men should look at women as, loving them as sisters. So I think first, love me as a friend, love me as a sister, and then we can think about the next step. Because if you can't even do these two, then how can you be entrusted to love me as more, as something more, in this case, as a wife?
Yeah. And I want to point out something you said in the book of Ephesians. It's talking about marriage. So I might make some men upset, but there's no reason why you should ask your girlfriend to submit to you. She's not your wife. Until you put a ring on that finger and you say, I do, she has no reason to submit to you. Women might get mad at me right now. The man does not have to love you like Christ loved the church if y'all is boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't even care if y'all living together. Y'all been living together for 3 years. The Bible says, wives, submit to your husband, and husband, love your wives. It didn't say boyfriend and girlfriend, long-term relationships, situationships, friends with benefits. It didn't say any of that. It says, wives, submit to your husband, and husbands, love your wife. So I just need people to know that there's no like, okay, but I've been here with him for 5 years. We have 2 kids, but we're not married. He doesn't have to love you like Christ loved the church, and you don't have to submit to him onto the Lord. So I just thought I should just throw that out there because, in this culture, people like want to mix. No. It says wives and husbands. It doesn't say boyfriends and girlfriends, fiance and fiance. It just says wives and husbands. So I just have to clear the air. Some people might get upset with me, but it had to be said. Someone needs to tell them.
No, and that's true. And again, I said that this is just good for you to learn,
Yeah.
to have a blueprint of what's expected when you're making that commitment, right? You don't want to find out after you're in it.
Yeah.
You should be preparing your hearts, right, for that. So that's why I brought it up, and that's why I said it in that form. But thank you for clarifying that, because that is true. And until you're married, then you're still single, essentially. Even if you're living together, even if you're engaged, you're still single until you're actually married. And I think people also need to realize that too. So then they might get upset at me. But yes, even if you're engaged, you're still single. That doesn't mean go out there and cheat or try different relationships or have multiple relationships. It just means that there's a certain way that you live once you're married. Once you're married, then you say I do, and then there's a way that you live as you're preparing until the day of. So we want to make sure that everyone watching understands that as well. And, and if you're married and you didn't do it this way, that's okay too, right? But now you just have the opportunity to just strengthen your relationship as you're married. But for the ones who are not married, then these are the steps you truly should be taking to be able to have, as they say, a godly relationship, or just you're dating, for the right reasons, if you're dating with purpose.
Yeah. So before we go to the second one, I want to make it so clear to people. How you file your taxes determines what you are. It didn't say in a relationship. It didn't say in an engagement. It says single, married, divorced, and separated. So however you file your taxes, that's what you are. So as my sister said, you're single until you say I do. Because just ask the IRS. Doesn't matter how long you've been living with a person, you're still single. But until you say I do, then that's when you can say you're married. So the second thing I want to get into, Gelitza, is what is the difference between setting standards and having a list? And I want to get your point of view, because most men, we don't have as long as a list as our counterparts women do. So what is the difference between setting a standard and having a list?
So I'm going to be honest, before I was walking in alignment with God and God was at my center, I did have a list that truly focused on me and my needs. And it's not that I didn't think about what I can do for my partner. I did think about that because just naturally I am giving and loving and generous, but my list was just based on how can this person meet my needs, right? And the difference between having a list and having standards is that a list to me is like a resume. Like I want this person to have X, Y, and Z, whether it's a stable job, whether I want him to be romantic and know to buy me flowers just because, or on a weekly basis, that he needs to be 6 foot tall, that he needs to be kind, that he needs to be loving, that he needs to be attentive. Like those are things that are just truly focused on outward. And it's not just based on looks, it's just based on what he can truly provide, right? It's based on expectations. So I think a list is truly based on expectations of the person. It doesn't necessarily have to include that he's a specific race or that he's a model type looking guy. It just means expectations, right? For you to be fulfilled, whether that's based on the way that you receive love or not. But I think when you have standards, doesn't matter what happens in life, doesn't matter who comes in your life or not, those standards are not going to be drifted. Those standards are still going to remain strong. And I think that a list can easily be, what's the word? It can be changed, it can be compromised depending on who walks into your life, right? Versus when you have these standards, you're not willing to compromise that because they are just so important to you. And standards, truthfully, should be based on the word of God. It should be based on values and morals that are good, right? Because I want to make sure that people don't confuse standards also with a list. And they're like, you know what? I'm just willing not to compromise. Like your standards should truly be when you're taking a deep dive into, okay, why am I doing this? What's the reason behind it? And what's truly important. So if it's the heart of God, if it's dating with purpose, if it's respect, like for me, after the heart for God, respect is definitely a big thing. Respect, love, communication. And if you don't have that, then we can move not even down the block, as they say. So there's just certain things that I'm just willing not to compromise on. But it's because one, it's what I need to be content, to be happy, to grow stronger. And also, it's what I'm also willing to do for you. So I'm just not gonna expect these standards and not at least be willing to do these for you if you have those same standards or something similar.
That's good. For me, this is the way I break it up. I break it up as a list is usually has to do with physical traits or what you can see. And the standard has to do with the characteristic of the individual. So for example, a list is like, I want my man to be 6 foot tall, to make 6 figures, and to have the 6-pack. For guys like, I want to go, got a big booty and a slim waist. That's a list. But standards is, I want someone who respects my boundaries. And I want someone who considers my request. So you see how the list and the standards are two different things, because the list is like, I can see with my eyes. I can see, but then when you see the standards, when you spend more and more time with the person, you say, okay, this person is respectful. Because respect is a big thing for me too. And in the relationship, there'll be a lot of disagreements because, we grew up in 2 different households. We won't see eye to eye on everything, but there should be no reason why the disagreement should turn into disrespect. So that's how I look at it, is that the standard is how the characteristic of the person, but the list is what I can see with my physical eyes. And I'm not saying that you should go marry someone that you're not attracted to, because you will want to have to, you got to be attracted to the person. So, you just can't just make out with someone you don't want to make out with. Let's be real. So you have to be attracted to the person. So, but don't ever let the list overtake the standard, because the list will fade away, but the standard can stand forever.
Sorry.
No,
My
you good.
mute. Yes, that's so good. And so I know that you talked about different things, respect, and well, I just love first how you broke it up between what you can see versus what you couldn't. But do you just get your standards from the Bible, or how have you come up with your list?
So here's my list. My standards is first has to be follower of Jesus. If you're not following Jesus, sorry about you. For me, I don't like to be confronted on every decision I make. So it has to be someone who's like agreeable. Like you don't have to argue every decision I make. Like that's just me. Like I said before, she has to respect me. And then we may, like I said, we may disagree on certain things, but it should never be disrespect. So that's me, my standards. Follower Jesus, which means you date according to the Bible, which means you're a follower of Jesus, which means no sex before marriage, all these other stuff that happens. I'm not the type of person who wants to like get as close to sin and see how close I can get without, tripping over sin. I want to stay close to Jesus. And so that's my standards. Follower of Jesus doesn't argue everything I do. I understand, let me know your concerns, let me know your advice, but don't argue with me every time I want to make a decision. And she has to respect me. That's my 3 standards. It can go, I don't want to bore people with my whole standards, but that's the top 3 for me.
No, I mean you can do your top 5. We need to teach them. So for anyone who doesn't have a standard, a list, a standard, yeah, a list of their standards, and yeah, definitely this is helpful. So do you have 2 more of those, or are those really the main
those are
3?
my top 3.
Okay. But no, that's definitely great, and I love that you mentioned that because when I look at my standards, my standard is definitely a man of God. And I want to point this out, and then I can elaborate a little bit more on my other top 2 or top 3. And I don't know, I would definitely want your point of view on this. And I think this would be helpful coming from a male perspective as well. When I look at, and even when I think about when I say a man of God, I don't want someone who's not already walking in that path. When I think about the words of the Bible, I think about the scripture that talks about being equally yoked. And I think, and we talked about this also in, if it wasn't in Chasing Your Purpose, definitely in our previous one, where someone needs to have a relationship with God for themselves, right? So, ladies, I definitely wholeheartedly recommend that you allow a male to just have a relationship with God for them. I know that as women, we can definitely be the nurturing, mothering type that want to always help and want to be a helping hand. But I think it does a disservice to us and as well to the male if we don't allow them to walk in purpose and walk in alignment with God on their own. Because if something doesn't go right in the relationship, then is this person going to stop going to church or seeking God because you're not with that person? So my standard for me is definitely that he's a man of God, that he's already serving the kingdom, that he's out there doing his thing, serving in whatever capacity he can, whether that's with his time, his talent, and what's the other one? Time, talent, and
Treasure.
and treasures. Yes, thank you. He definitely needs to be doing that. And then also he needs to be a prayer warrior, because there are times that I just don't even have the words to pray for my own self. So the same way that I can call my sisters in Christ to pray for me or over me, I definitely need him to be a prayer warrior, and that he can be able to encourage me and just pour into me when I need it. So those are my standards. Definitely just a heart on fire for God, a prayer warrior, someone who's definitely going to respect me. And even though he's the leader, but then he's also going to allow me to lead when I can. There's definitely things that I can bring to the table. So I just like being able to have a partnership where we can make decisions together, where we can have clear communication, because I over communicate. So I definitely want someone who's going to be a communicator, who's going to be able to listen, be quick to listen and slow to speak, so that that can allow us to make decisions together, but then also that he can feel confident that if I have to take the lead, that he's okay with that. And another top one for me, and this is why I just wanted your perspective as a male. One, because of the first one that I mentioned about making sure that this man is on fire for God, but also for my last standard is confidence. I cannot stress this enough where I think men need to be confident in who they are within their skin, because if you don't, that can easily be portrayed, that can easily be shown in whatever form of insecurity. So I think it's important, at least these are one of my standards, for a male to be confident that he just knows who he is, what he brings to the table, but being confident enough that he also knows who he has by his side and what this person represents for them. So Ed, take that away. And the reason I say that is because I've spoken to older men like my godfather, uncles, and it was just shocked me when they told me that it is a very high percentage of men who are not confident, who are more insecure about themselves than confident men out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a stat of like 90% of men are insecure and 10% are confident. Me, I was like, are you kidding me? That doesn't leave me with a lot of wiggle room. So please take it away, as you are, a man of Christ and we're in the same age group.
So I think the first thing is, it goes back to our last week episode, that they need to heal. There's a reason why they're insecure. Maybe it's a bad breakup. Maybe the girlfriend like cheated on him or something like that. So they have this insecurity that they need to heal from. So the second thing is they have to make sure that their identity is rooted in Christ. The reason why people can be so confident because they know who they're following. And I like how you said follower of Jesus, because there's a lot of people who can believe in Jesus. The Bible says demons believe in Jesus. So I'm not trying to, I'm just gonna leave it right there. I'm just gonna leave it right there. There's a difference between believing in Jesus and following Jesus. So that doesn't really surprise me, because I know a lot of people, because most people in general don't like to be rejected. So it's the best way not to get rejected is not to put even the effort in. So that's what can lead to people not having confidence, because if they don't put the effort in, they never get rejected and their ego is spared. As men, we're ego-centered species. That's who we are. We like to protect our ego. How do we protect our ego? By not getting rejected. So that's how it is. But like I said, once you have your identity in Christ and you're walking and chasing your purpose in Christ, it doesn't matter what or who does what to you, you still know that I'm still valued in Jesus. I'm still worthy in Jesus. And once you start to know that, then your confidence will increase. But the thing is, your confidence won't increase in you. Your confidence will increase in your position in Christ.
Okay. Well, you seem like a pretty confident man as I've gotten to know you. So I don't know if you've experienced things in the past that have caused you to maybe shy away from your confidence or feel a little bit insecure. But if you have gone through those experiences, what helped you to just, work your way back to confidence? Because I know that you mentioned, rooted in God, but sometimes that's easier said than done, right? Because someone can say, well, I'm seeking God, I'm praying every day, I'm in the Word. So is there anything practical things that, if you have experiences or even you just working through your own life, that has helped you build your confidence?
You have to just evaluate yourself, and then you have to realize, what do I bring to the table? And then you have to look at it. If this lady leaves, this is for men. If this lady leaves me, she left this great thing on the table. So for me, I know we're supposed to pursue the woman. The Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But I'm not going to chase you down. If you say no, okay, God bless you. I'll pray for you in your next relationship, because I know what I bring to the table. So it's, people just have to do an honest evaluation of themselves and see, what do you bring to the table. Some things you might have to like level up a little bit. For men, you just might have to level up, and then you realize that, okay, I bring this, this, and this to the table. What I know I bring to the table for sure is my relationship with Jesus. I know no one can take that away from me. I know how closely I walk with the Holy Spirit every day. So that's something that I could bring to the table. So instead of me bringing money, instead of bringing the cars, the houses, I can bring my relationship with Jesus. And then people will say like, oh man, that's a man that's submitted to God. And for some reason, what I've heard females say, women say that like Christian women, they love a man who's submitted to God. So all I'm gonna do, I'm not submitted to God so I can get all these girls or so I can be in a relationship. I'm submitted to God because what God has done for me. So men have to realize that you're not submitting to God so you get in a relationship. You're submitting to God because for everything he has done for you, he's worthy and deserving of your submission.
Yes, I love that. And amen to that. And men, if you heard that, you need to pursue. And don't
Hold
stay
on, pause, Gelitza. Pause, Gelitza. Yes, the men should pursue. Women be pursuable.
Okay, and that okay, but you didn't let me finish my sentence. Men need to pursue, and then women need to, yes, be pursuable. But men need to also have that confidence in who they are and go out there and pursue. Because a lot of times, I think that men just don't have the confidence to pursue women, which then makes us be the one to pursue men. And some people say, well, it's the new age, we're in a new century, like we don't have to do it the old way, the traditional way. But I still think when you're doing things by God's standard, it is that men should be pursuing the women. And if women, if you're interested, then allow yourself to be pursued. If you're not, please be honest and don't leave someone on.
Stop playing those games, women. Stop playing those games. That's why most men are insecure right now, because y'all play too many games with too many men's hearts. And it's like, well, there's no hope for me. So stop playing those games. I can say the same thing for women, for men, Gelitza, but women are always playing this game. Let me get a free dinner out of it. I might get, but I'm just stating facts, Gelitza. I'm just stating facts.
You know what? Fine, I'll give you that. But I at least from what I've seen and what I've experienced, just from like my inner circle and having conversations, I think for me, I have seen those types where they're like, okay, a free meal. If it didn't work out, keep it moving. I think those cases, it's if you recognize it's not the person, okay, fine, great. It was a good conversation. I got a free meal. But then there are times that women and even men, they keep on and keep on and keep on because of the potential. So I also want to caution someone to be caution and aware of the potential.
Yeah.
Because I think we oftentimes are not too honest with that. We allow potential to become the new standard of like, you know what, he has potential, which is what I was saying. This person might be a believer of God. Doesn't mean that he's following God and already serving God and has his own relationship. No, but he has potential to mature and grow in faith, right? So do I want to have a potential, which then could become a project? Or do you want someone who's already walking in purpose?
For me, I want someone who's walking in purpose, because potential is a dangerous thing. Like, because the devil had the potential to be the greatest angel in heaven, but his pattern showed that he was not. He was a prideful person, and he got thrown down to the earth. So that's why it's so dangerous to see, oh, yeah, Johnny has the potential to own his own business, but Johnny's pattern show that he's lazy and just plays video games all the time. So, so I will always look at the pattern and not the potential. But that's what some women do. They like, okay, I see the potential. So like you said, I can make this a project. But what I realized talking to women, once it becomes a project, now they're just frustrated because they never signed up to raise a son. They signed up to have a boyfriend.
Right.
And that's how they get frustrated.
Yes, I agree. And even from your standard, you would want, I'm sure, someone who's going to be already walking in God, right? So would you date someone who is a believer and starting off, but is not as mature in her faith yet?
I will have to have a nudge from the Holy Spirit to do so.
Okay.
I would have to.
But
because the thing is, when you're running for God, is very tempting to slow down so someone can catch up. and then you will never get to the speed unless that person who caught up is like, she's on fire too, and y'all just running together now. But it's more tempting to like slow down and compromise for the person who's not as on fire or running for God, if that makes sense.
Right, because they could be on fire. They're just not. They're just not as mature as you. Like they could be in their, I don't know, in their baby Christianhood, or or growing stages, but they're just not at your level yet because they found Christ much later than what you did. So that's what I mean by that. They're still on heart. They're still on fire for God. It's just you just started at two different times. Yeah. Like you can be the same age, but still you start at different times.
True.
So would you give that person a chance?
If the Holy Spirit gives me a nudge, yeah. And this very most important thing is what we're talking about next week is praying for your future spouse. So this is when we need to start praying. We don't need to start praying when we're in a marriage or in a relationship. We need to start praying now. So if that is my future spouse, God is going to be already working in her and transforming her heart. That's how I look at it. Is just keep praying. If God gives me nudge, oh, you should ask for her number or you should take her on a date, then I will do those things. But if she's not, nope. That's just me.
Okay, well, I definitely appreciate your perspective. So this is good. Thanks.
So my third thing I want to get into is, when does a person reveal their standards to a person they're interested in?
So this is definitely an interesting one, and I can't wait to hear your perspective as a male. And I'm gonna say what I think, and then I definitely want to hear what you think, but also not just when you think it should be revealed as a male, but also I want to hear what you think when a girl says these things to you. I want to get your thoughts on, is it too early to say it on the first date, or you need a second date or a third date? So for instance, for me, because right now I'm single. So when I'm dating with purpose. So I'm dating with my standards, which is a God-fearing man, doing things in alignment with what the Bible says. So, no sex, not doing things that can be portrayed as a married couple, even though we're not married. So technically not living with the person. Like I definitely want to be able to date the person and then get married, have that sexual life when we're married, because that's what we're called to do, right? And then also the standards that I had mentioned as far as like the confidence and being a prayer warrior. So you can definitely get to know a lot about a person in one day, but then I know that it takes time to actually have multiple conversations. So there's things that it might not come up in one day. So I'm always concerned, or I'm always wondering, is it too fast to tell a male, hey, I'm a follower of Christ, I'm going to do this the right way, and I want to let you know from the get-go, I'm not willing to have sex. So is that too much on the first date? Because I was probably targeting maybe not the first date, but maybe the second date, because you definitely want to just get a sense or get a feel for the person, especially if this is not a relationship that initially started as friends and then evolved. But if you're just meeting someone completely new, you don't know them from anywhere, would it be too early to do it on the first date?
Yes.
Okay.
My rule is no later than the third date.
No later than the third date.
No later than the third date. But we have to be careful not to put these signs out there, like on the date, that is contrary to the standards you have.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Makes sense, yeah.
So we just have to make sure that, oh, we have our standards, but now I'm doing things that are a little bit too risque or too flirtatious. And now the guy's mind's like, well, okay, she's giving me these signs, I guess I can take her. Then she's like, you're like, no, shut it down. So my rule is no later than third date, whatever your standards are. And it doesn't have to be the third date, I'm gonna unload all the whole clip. I'm just gonna give them all the standards. No, you can work your way up and give them standards, and then the one you think is going to be like the hardest one to swallow, you can keep that for the third date, or y'all can be talking on the phone or whatever that is. But also, your social media has to match your standards. You can't be saying that I'm waiting till I get married, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then you have sexual provocative videos and pictures on your social media. The guy will be confused. Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's the thing that you just have to make sure, like I said, no later than the third date. Because after the third date, lines will get blurred. And then, once you're about to get tempted by sin, it's hard to find yourself out of sin. So just make sure you set the standards then and there. Say, this is how clear. I want to be as clear and concise. I'm not having sex till I get married. If you like it, cool. If you don't like it, it was nice meeting you.
Okay. So, which I totally can understand. And again, you might know by the first day that you might not be interested with this person because either the chemistry is not there. And when I say chemistry, I'm not talking about the attraction piece, like just the physical piece, but you can kind of tell when, okay, this can go somewhere when the conversations are flowing, right? Or when there's just something about this person that you're like, oh, this could potentially, maybe, we'll see down the road, right? But so I haven't personally done this on a first date, but I've had friends who have done this where they tell the person on the first date. So as a man, will you be thrown off about things like that? Or will you take it the wrong way if a woman just comes too direct on the first date? Like, hey, you know what? These are my standards. And one of them is, I just want to let you know, I'm just not willing to have sex until I'm married.
So it depends on the person. Is this person a believer? Because if the person's not a believer, it'd be just confusing. So I think it really depends if the person's a believer or not.
The guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it depends if the guy's a believer or not. And I know most guys will appreciate this, because I'm going to be as blunt as I can. That means we don't have to pay for date 2 and date 3. So as we know in date 1, okay, you're not putting out, and that's my goal. This was very fun. This is nice. I might block you, but it's all good. So I'm just telling you the honest, raw perspective from a guy. We'd be appreciative that you told us on date 1 that our goal was just to sleep with you.
Okay. So, so are you saying then, do you actually wait to review your standards? So I think I understood you saying, do you not review all your standards like in 1 or 2 dates? Like, do you actually break out your standards on multiple dates?
What I said is no later than date 3. That's when they should know all your standards. But you can break all out date 1, but if you don't feel comfortable, then that's why I say break it up. If you don't feel comfortable.
Okay. All right. Well then, see, ladies, if you're listening, he just gave us some good wisdom here. But what are your thoughts then? Like, so you as the male taking out someone after you pursued someone, when do you review your standards?
Probably the first date.
Okay.
Because the pressure is usually not on the man, because usually men sorry to say, but men usually have less standards than women. So sorry to say, that's just how it is. So usually the first date, I'll let them know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess if that's the case, then women should just probably be very vocal and honest. And I think it also depends on the flow. So, and I think this goes both to ladies and gents. Review your standards as the conversation is flowing. Don't just meet each other and say, hi, nice to meet you. I am so and so. Here are my standards. And
yeah,
I think you should definitely let the conversation flow, especially because I've seen often some people may not just decide not to do a dinner date. They might decide to just go for a walk together or grab some coffee. So realistically, how much time do you have when you're doing a walk or doing coffee, right? So I just think you should allow the conversations to flow, but always keeping in mind your standards and making sure that nothing is going to jeopardize that, nothing is going to drift you from that. Like, you're standing firm on that and it will not be shaken.
And then also, I want to say this before we go to the fourth part. You can always present your standards as the question. So like, how do you feel about waiting until you get married? And they will give you the answer. And you're like, well, I feel this way. This was fun while it lasted. We're going to go our separate ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can always offer your standard as a question. And that's how you get your answer to the question.
Which is a very intelligent way of doing that. So thank you for giving some insight. Ladies, now you know. And men, you can do the same as well. That's a clever way.
Yeah. So like, even if like, so how do you feel about going to life groups at church? Oh, I'm not in a life group. Why aren't you in a life group? And you see how it goes. Oh, I'm not really connected. And then it just keeps going. Like, so you use your standard as a question to gauge where they're at.
Okay.
So the fourth thing I want to get into, Gelitza, is how should a person handle someone who's not respecting their standards?
Well, I think this is when you really think about your boundaries. I think, especially when you're dating or just even in any relationship. And again, this can tie back to friendships, dating, engagement. I just think you definitely need to set boundaries for yourself before you even allow someone in, right? So that way you can know how to handle it. So I would say one of the ways to handle when someone's not respecting the standards is to be like very transparent is, I would say, have a conversation and find a way for the person to truly understand what you're saying. Because if you're not completely vocal in a way where they can understand, then you can't hold them accountable, right? But once you've had that conversation, no matter how uncomfortable it is or comfortable it is, if they still are not respecting it, then I think that's one of those relationships that I would consider ending. Because if you can respect a standard of mine, especially one of those standards, let's say we're waiting until marriage, then how can you be entrusted with something else that's important that becomes more important in your life, right? Because okay, once you pass this standard and you get married, right, you can have sex. Like there's gonna be, as life goes on, you're gonna have more things in life that are gonna come up, that are gonna be bigger, that are gonna it's going to consider a lot more to make a decision, right? Or it's going to require more energy or more effort from your time, right? So if you can respect something small, then how can you be entrusted with the big things? And I just think that's not just for that one standard. I think it's for all standards that you have. There has to be boundaries.
You're better than me. You said consider letting the relationship go. For me, let them go. Because if they don't respect because your standards represents you. So if they disrespect your standards, they're indirectly disrespecting you.
Right.
So like, just let them go and let them know what they had, but I ain't coming back, sorry. Because if you try to entertain him or her disrespecting your standards, if that person is very persistent, you will start to compromise your standards.
Right.
So for me, I'd rather just let it go so I can have my standards intact. Because there's some persistent people that's gonna keep going and keep going and keep going. And then you're like, oh, it's just this one time. Then this one time turns to 30 times. And then 30 times turns to umpteen times. You know what I mean? So just let them go. If God purposed this person to be my spouse and somehow like he will bring this person back into my life when they have a little bit more self-control and respect for my standards, so be it. If not, I'm gonna have to let you go.
Right. And I think a big part of that has to be that you're standing firm on your standards, right? So you want to have already those standards in place before you're meeting someone. So as you are growing stronger in your faith, as you're maturing, as you are growing in confidence because you're taking the time to know yourself, right? And knowing yourself meaning the way that God sees you, you knowing yourself, the things that what gives you emotion, what makes you feel any kind of way, just knowing you, your strengths, your weaknesses. When you have those standards in place, then the other person's standards don't become yours. But when you're not strong in your standards and this person comes in and then they're not, as you said, they're disrespecting your standards, then you can easily be persuaded into their standards and then
Yeah.
those eventually become yours. So
Yeah.
in all of this, the purpose of this is we're trying to avoid someone else's standards that were never meant to be yours to
Yeah.
become yours. So this goes for both ladies and gentlemen at whatever stage you are until you're married.
Mhm.
Once you're married, because some people might be watching this and they're already married and they're like, okay, well, am I a lost case? No, I just think that in marriage, then you'll have to tackle it differently, right? The respect, the certain conversations, and that might have to be couples therapy, for instance.
Mhm.
But anyone who's not married, or even who's been, I don't know, who's a widow and who hasn't been dating in a long time, even someone maybe a widow, like your standards could be differently now than when you first were married, because now you've been down that road and we want to say better now because you've learned, right, from your first scenario. So I just think the overall purpose of this is truly have your standards so that way, again, it's not shaking and it doesn't get easily persuaded by someone else's.
Yeah, that's so good because we have to set our standards so we know we have to look at like, okay, so for example, if they don't respect you when they're your boyfriend or girlfriend, they're probably not going to respect you when you're their husband or wife. So for me, respect is a huge thing. So if I say I'm in a relationship and I told my girlfriend, like, don't raise your voice at me because I will never raise my voice at you, but she continue to do it, I'm gonna have to let her go.
Right.
There's some people that has like mental trauma that their parents used to raise their voice at them, and that's just like a trigger for them. So that's their standard, like, don't raise your voice at me, but they continue to do it. What's the point of staying? Because it's not going to get better when marriage comes.
Right. Marriage is not the fix for those problems. You need to work on those things before. But that is why I said first I will have that conversation with them, because
Yeah.
then I give the person the opportunity to hold them accountable. Now, after we have that conversation, if it continues to occur, then yes, sorry, but not sorry.
You gotta let them go. Like Elsa said, let it go, let it go. You just gotta see you later. Bye.
Hasta luego.
Yep. Mucho gusto. Like, I'm out.
Exactly. So that's pretty much where we are in this.
Yeah. Setting your standards is very important. We're not talking about a list. Get rid of that list. But the standards is what's going to keep you. It's going to keep you sane when you have those standards and like, oh, this person's not my standards, this person's not my standards, and then you find the person for you. So
Yes. Rip that list, that physical list, and write down your standards.
yeah,
Truly are beyond just the physical appearance.
for
And
sure.
and once you're walking in God and have God at the center, and it may be that you're watching us and you may not even know what to write. You might think, well, I've never looked at it from this standpoint. So where do I even begin? And this is where we would recommend for you to pray and just ask the Spirit to just lead you in that, and and if and just allow the Spirit to speak into you and what it is that should be your standard. And if you still feel like I can't hear the Spirit, then truly just look at the Bible, see what the Bible has to say about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
How does God love us? What does God think of us? And once you start reading that and knowing and just knowing those words, knowing those promises, then you can say, okay, this is how I want to pursue. And I would also even take it a step more. There are a lot of Christian books that are made out there that represent a kingdom woman, a kingdom man, or how do I prepare to be the wife, or a godly wife, or a godly husband. So check out those. And in addition to the Bible, I have been reading a book called The Sacred Search, and it's by Gary Thomas. I actually have it with me, so here it is. And I definitely would recommend. This is also a great book that talks about the reason behind marriage, the why versus the who. So if you're in the stage where you're dating, about to date, I think resources like that are also very good. So you can just have a more clear understanding and you don't feel like you're out here and alone.
And before we go to 15, I just want to say, find yourself Christian mentors.
Yes.
Like if you see someone who's in a healthy relationship, healthy marriage, start asking questions now while you're still single, because that will help you get in front of the battle before the battle actually gets here.
Yes, absolutely.
So the final thing, go ahead.
No, and I was just gonna say, just yeah. In addition to that, just community, which we talked about. It just community, and if you have a good relationship with your pastor, maybe when you start dating someone and you think this is the one, maybe you can have those conversations with, hey, have like wise counsel surrounding you that can lead you, which is essentially what you were saying. But just making sure that you have the right people surrounding you that can be able to provide wisdom.
For sure. So the final thing I want to get into is, how does a person stand firm in their standards?
Ooh, that's a challenging one, right? Because it definitely starts with making sure you have that list of standards. But I would say have someone that can hold you accountable to it. So I would say maybe a friend, if you share with a friend or someone that's close to you, or a mentor or someone, I would just say have someone hold you accountable that you're walking in alignment with your standards. So you know how you brought up your social media should match your standards. I just think overall your lifestyle should match your standards. And you should definitely have that circle or that one person that can be honest. And sometimes it may come across as brutally honest, but I think you need to have someone that can definitely tell you, hey, you know what? You're not doing it this way, and this is what I know you want. So maybe you should consider changing this way, like changing what you're doing, or removing something out of your life. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest things, is just having an accountability partner, someone that you definitely can trust. And that doesn't mean that you need to tell 10 people or 1,000 friends, like, hey, I'm dating someone. Like, no, just keep it very intimate, especially when you don't know if this person might be the one. You want to just make sure that you're not allowing everyone's opinion and judgment into your decision making. You still want to be able to make the decision on a sober mind and just truly on what God has for your life. But definitely having a person that can hold you accountable is one way for me that I would recommend.
That's good. For me, the first thing I want to say is they have to be on guard. People need to stop making decisions in emotional states, and we need to stand firm in the promise God has given us. In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13, it says, be on guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. So the second thing for me is, like, you have to stand firm in God because you got your standards from God. It's not like you made up these standards. These standards came from God, so you can stand firm in God. Philippians chapter 4, verse 1 says, therefore, brothers and sisters, you whom I love and long for, my joy and crown, stand firm in the Lord in this way, dear friends. And the third thing for me is you have to put on the full armor of God. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11 says, put on all God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil. So the belt of truth, that's what, let me say right now, it's hard to have sex when you have a belt on. So put on the belt of truth. Like, I'm just being honest. The breastplate of righteousness means you cover your heart, you guard your heart. Book of Proverbs says, guard your heart, because the matters of life flows from it. The shoe of peace, that means you will have peace when you walk into a relationship. And since you have the shoe of peace, if God tells you to leave that relationship, you will have peace when you leave that relationship. The shield of faith is so you can make sure all the darts don't come to you. So you have the shield of faith so you can continue to remind yourself of God's faithfulness. So if God got you through what he got you in the past, who will get you through this season of singleness right now. And even if you're in a horrible relationship, God will get you through that too. That's why you put up the shield of faith, so you can remind yourself of the faithfulness of God. And then the helmet of salvation. There's a lot of people that are going into relationships because they don't have their mind protected. They said, if I get in a relationship, then my value will go up. My security will go up. If you have the mind of Christ, you will know that you're already valued in Jesus. And the last is the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, which means, like we've been saying, your standards should come from the word of God.
And I love that, especially when you were touching about the emotion piece. Well, I just love that whole Philippians chapter. So it's a great one. But I think you hit it like spot on when you were talking about the feelings. I think too many times we focus in on our feelings or our emotions, on how something made us feel, right? On how this relationship is making us feel. And we're not thinking enough on, is this glorifying God? And that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that whatever we're doing has to glorify God first. So if this does not look like something that we would seek God's face for before, then, why even do it? I think that, and especially in the book that I'm reading, the Sacred Search, they actually talk about, they made a really good analogy that talks about, to analyze one's feelings is the worst way of arriving at a measure of a friendship. To count its cost is the best way. So in other words, it's very hard to measure a decision and a standard and whether or not you should be with a person just based on feelings, because the heart can be deceitful.
Yep.
And it's not to say that it's not a good thing that, you definitely want to have feelings, you want to love, but sometimes just because you love someone doesn't mean that it is the right person.
Yeah.
So when it talks about to count its cost is the best way, meaning when you take out those emotions and you truly count the cost, meaning what you're willing to do for this person, the sacrifices, how much is this person going to change your life, what they're pouring into you, what you're pouring into them. When you look at the cost of that in terms of time, investment, what you're spending, men, especially men, what you're spending on, when you actually count that cost, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it glorifying God? Is it still in alignment with the standards? Because if it's not, then the heart is not helping. The feelings are not helping. Why are we still doing this, right? So I think we need to always just remember that goal of making sure that it glorifies God and that we're seeking Him first. Regardless, marriage is not just this perfect happy ending, we're living ever after fairy tale, right? Marriage takes work. Any relationship takes work. Friendship takes work, right? So it was never meant to be easy. And it was never meant to just be this happy thing, right? But it's what God has called us to do. And it can be easy when you do it for the right reasons, right? When you do it in alignment with God, because then when circumstances, when trials and tests come and into play, then you have a strong foundation to overcome whatever comes your way.
That is so good. And that's all I want to get in today. We can't give them all the gold. We have them coming back 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks. So thank you everyone for tuning in to week 3 of Work Your Singleness Wednesdays. Gelitza, week 3 was fun. It was insightful. It was knowledgeable. I think a lot of people's lives will be changed. And some people might be upset because now people will have standards in their lives. But I don't care. Be mad at us. This is what we need. When we're talking about kingdom singleness, part of kingdom singleness is having a standard. And we get to do 2 more weeks of this great content. And week 5, Gelitza, is going to be a Q&A format. So we have a couple of our friends coming through. They're going to help us with the answering the questions. So in the description box below, there's a link where you can submit your questions. And also it'll be anonymous. So don't worry, you can ask a question as crazy as you want to. We won't know who you are. So we're excited to answer your questions in week 5. So everyone, join the conversation in the comment section below. Let us know what stood out to you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm uploading every single day. I know y'all tired of me saying this, but I'm uploading every single day in the month of June. And this is day 16 of the 30 days of uploads on YouTube. And I don't want you to miss out on any of the great content like this conversation that will be coming out from this channel. If you have any prayer requests, put in the comment section below. I love you. God bless you. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, take care.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want more content, subscribe over here and watch the next video over there. God bless you.